So now I'd like to spend a little bit of time explaining how the horse slaughter system works so that we can get a better understanding of the realities of this system. Firstly, I think it's kind of interesting to look at the geography of horse slaughter, and this map that's been behind me the whole time kind of explains it a little bit, not in so much detail, but what you see is the United States, and each post-it note includes some information on what's going on in that state with regards to kill auctions, kill buyers, and so on and so forth. Even though there's only one post-it note for Texas and Oklahoma, that's where a lot of kill buyers actually exist. Pennsylvania and Ohio also has a pretty strong horse slaughter situation going on there. We have some major auctions in the east. You've got Sugar Creek in Ohio, you've got New Holland in Pennsylvania, you've got Shipshewana in Indiana, Olex actually just up in Canada, and so on and so forth. So lots of things going on in terms of the geography. So if you can see the colour of the pins, I use that to sort of explain where the horses are going in the slaughter pipeline. So you see blue, there's a lot of blue pins. They're currently going down to Mexico. That obviously might change after January 15. The red pins, they're going up to Alberta in Canada at this point in time, and then the yellow pins are going up to Quebec in Canada. There are one or two green pins. That just means lots of illegal activity. We've got feedlots, a couple of feedlots on the western side, one in Texas, one in Washington, one in Alberta, owned or contracted to various slaughterhouses, one in Mexico and one up in Canada. And on the east side, we don't actually have feedlots to the extent, but obviously the kill buyers have their own lots. We call them collecting stations. So that's kind of geographically how the system is. And how the supply chain works, obviously, you know, first the horse has to enter the sort of horse slaughter pipeline. It can enter in a variety of different ways, and it might be that the horse is bought by some kind of horse trader, and horse traders are all over the place. And many kill buyers, a kill buyer is a person with a contract with a slaughterhouse, will have a number of horse traders that they work with directly. So the horse trader might pick up horses at an auction, various other things, then go either take the horses to a kill auction where more kill buyers exist, or have direct relationships with kill buyers and sell them on to those kill buyers. And a horse trader might be a pony guy on the backside of a racetrack, and so forth. So you've got a horse trader, you've got a kill buyer, then you've got the kill buyers own, some people call them feedlots, but I would call it a collecting station. And that's where they aggregate their horses, and then they'll ship their horses to either a feedlot owned by the slaughterhouse, contracted to the slaughterhouse, or directly to the slaughterhouse itself, depending on the size of their contract and when they've got to ship them, and so on and so forth. And again, if you look at the map, you've got some horses coming all the way from South Dakota, potentially down to Mexico, and so forth. These horses are shipping large distances. If they're going into Mexico, they've got to go through export pens to then enter into Mexico. And if they're going up into Canada, they don't actually have to do that. There are various ports of entry at which they can transport through. Some horses actually then get rejected at either the port of entry or the export pen. Those horses then have to either go back to the kill buyers' lots. Who knows? Obviously, it's not a good outcome for those kind of horses either. There are various case studies that give examples on how horses end up in slaughter. I mean, it might be a breeding program that's culling horses out of the breeding program, or a ranch situation where, again, they're culling horses. It might be that some unscrupulous rodeo contractors are culling horses out of their rodeo program. And it could be that the horse trader on the backside of a racetrack is making him or herself known that, you know, they can take horses from you. Don't worry, it'll go to a nice home, just as long as you feel good about it, and then ship the horse off to a kill buyer or to a kill auction. And there have been various case studies in the press that sort of highlight some of these situations. So there was a situation in Pennsylvania probably in the last couple of years where some young lady, very cute young lady, so it sort of creates that suggestion that the horse is going to a good place, and she says the horse is going to a good place, and then all of a sudden the horses appear in a collecting station of a very well-known kill buyer 2 days later. Obviously that very cute young lady got into a lot of trouble for misleading the people on those purchases. We have a horse trader out in California who, you know, he can't be a kill buyer because California says you can't buy horses for slaughter. He ships horses to a kill buyer in New Mexico. He's a rodeo contractor, so there you go. That's not very good for the rodeo guys. But on the horse racing side, we have a racehorse trainer who's also a kill buyer up in the sort of Midwest, so that's not very good either. We also have kill buyers own auctions, so that's quite a good deal, right? If you own a major kill auction and you're the kill buyer, and you know, a kill buyer's a breeder, and so on and so forth. So these kill buyers themselves have jobs, you know, they're otherly connected to horse industries. So that's a little bit about how the horse slaughter system works here in the United States. Now I just want to spend a brief amount of time on the politics of horse slaughter to understand sort of how, if things are going to change, how they might change. On the one hand, we could introduce or pass federal legislation that would end horse slaughter. To do that, you've got to basically end the transportation of horses to slaughter, because what we have done in the past is basically through indirect means ended horse slaughter in the United States, but what that did was simply outsource it to more so to other countries, i.e. Mexico and Canada. We have been unsuccessful. I don't know if it's been 4 Congresses in a row or 5 or 6, but unsuccessful yet of passing legislation that stops the trade of horse slaughter for good. So, you know, in the new Congress begins next year, we will introduce new legislation similar to the SAFE Act, I'm sure, of the last Congress, and we will struggle to try to convince people to pass that legislation, to get it on the floor for a vote, and so on and so forth. It's a lot easier in Washington to maintain the status quo, a lot harder to affect change. Washington's designed like that, and quite honestly, with the use of money in politics, that's just simply been exacerbated, so we can thank the Supreme Court for their viewpoint on what is the freedom of speech, I suppose. And I do think, quite honestly, there's a lot of horsemen very disinterested and disengaged with Washington, certainly from those Western states as part of the Western culture, and certainly don't want to see additional regulation applied. So the reality is killing horse slaughter from a regulatory standpoint from Washington is going to be very, very hard. Finally, I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the potential next steps in what is a very divisive issue, that of horse slaughter. The first issue will be what occurs as a result of the ban of horse meat coming out of Mexico, because again, that accounts for 2/3 of horses currently going to slaughter from the United States. So does the ban really go in place? Presumably it will. And presumably that'll create a certain set of sort of knock-on consequences. Does it mean that the Mexican horse meat market system creates other markets for its horse meat? Do they send meat to China, to Russia? Russia might have been a distinct possibility, but I think the ruble is probably making horse meat quite expensive over there from an import standpoint. Anyway, they've got to find new markets if they continue to import the volume of horses they're currently importing. Another potential outcome might be that more horses go up to Canada now because they can't go to Mexico in the same numbers. If that is the case, can Canada absorb the volume of horses, i.e. they'd have to basically double or triple the amount of horses they're slaughtering, so potentially that's probably not as likely a scenario, but they'll probably take in more horses because both Mexico and Canada are feeding the same European Union marketplaces. We could possibly reintroduce slaughter in the United States. Obviously that would be the preferred outcome of the pro-slaughter lobbies. New Mexico, Kansas and a couple of other states, which I forget right now, have been proactive in trying to do that. They can't do that before September 15th because of the defunding language in the spending bill, and no doubt anti-slaughter groups will do their damnedest to maintain that defunding language. And the other potential scenario is the anti-slaughter group is successful in actually passing a piece of legislation that does ban horse slaughter overall. So I would just say that if the European Union does halt imports from Mexico, that essentially creates a huge impact on the horse slaughter system as it currently stands. Far greater impact than the closing of the Texas and Illinois slaughter plants that occurred in either 2006 or 2007. So we will see some outcomes, and a couple of the scenarios I outlined are potentially those outcomes. 2015 will be a very interesting year with respect to horse slaughter in the United States.